Okay, so learning about functions, and in CS10 we got a bit of an intro to functions as well, but just reviewing it, and we'll learn some new stuff here as well. So in the intro to functions, we should have seen that function is a block of code. We can pass data into and out of the function. This block of code can be reused over and over again, right? You define it, and then you can invoke it or call it. So you define the function. It's like stored code. It has the potential to do something, but it won't do anything until you actually call it. And the key thing with functions is they make code more organized and efficient, right? Functions should be kind of these logical blocks of code. They perform a certain task, and you can break up your program into these different tasks that you can do. Okay, they're also efficient because it helps you to reuse code. And we'll see that in some examples and assignments coming up. So defining and invoking functions, keyword function, the name of the function, parentheses, open and close braces. This is where it starts and ends, right? That block of code starts and ends here. And then you put stuff inside of it. So I'm going to actually use, what is it again? Visualize JavaScript tutorial, something like that. No, that's not what I wanted. Oh, JavaScript tutor. That's what I'm looking for. It's actually, you can do Python with it too. But we're learning JavaScript right now. So in here, I like this because we can visualize the execution. Let's just do this first. Console.log hello. Console.log. I can't remember what it said. It doesn't matter what it says. Have a good day. That's great. Have a good day. Exclamation mark because we're excited. So this code, right, 2 lines of code, if I execute this, the first line of code will run, it'll say hello, the second line of code will run, it'll say have a good day. Beautiful. What functions do is I could put this code inside of a function. Function, greeting, right? Oh good, sorry, tab for me, that's nice. And then bam, right there. Okay, those open and close braces. This code, those 2 lines, those console.logs, those 2 console.logs are now stored inside of this function called greeting. And now when I execute this, you'll see that it just said, oh look, there's a function called greeting. It recognized that. JavaScript says, great, there's a function called greeting, here it is. But there's nothing to do, right? It doesn't write to the console, it doesn't actually do anything until we invoke this function. So to invoke the function, we simply use, and actually let's add a comment here. This is where I define the function. And now let's invoke or call the function. Greeting. So sometimes a common mistake when you're first doing functions is just to use the name of the function. This is actually valid. Technically, greeting is kind of like a variable. But to invoke the function, we need those parentheses at the end. And that basically says, okay, greeting, do your job. So now we run this, and the same thing. It said, hey, great, there's a function here. And now it says, let's run that function. So now the function call goes inside of the function, and it executes the hello, have a good day. And once the function is done, a function always returns something. By default, it's undefined unless we tell it what to return. We'll talk more about that later. So now I hit forward. And ta-da, it returns back from where it called, and now we're done. So I could, if I wanted to do it a couple times, right, we can go greeting, greeting. I can reuse this code. I can define the function once and use it as many times as I'd like. So you'll see the first call to the greeting, it goes into the function, prints out hello, have a good day, and then returns, right? So that was the last line of code that executed, and now it'll go to the next line, and it'll call greeting, which will reuse that code in there, and then go to the next call until we are done. Okay, so that's the idea of reusing code, right? Define the function and invoke the function. Now, something I want to add here is passing data into a function. Okay, so we can give a function data to work with, and the key vocabulary here is arguments and parameters. So in the example here, when I define the function, I add some variables here called parameters. And these variables, separated by commas, there's 2, name and time of day. These parameters, right, these special variables called parameters, will be used to store data that the function needs. And then I can use those variables inside of the function. Hello, whatever is stored inside of this variable, name, and have a good, whatever time of day is passed into the function. Okay, so these are parameters. Now the arguments are the values that get passed in. So again, I can call the function over and over again. But when I call the function, I have to provide information. And that's what these parentheses are for. Right? When we go display greeting parentheses, often we've had them just empty. But if you want to pass information into the function, this is where you give the information. So the first time we're going to say good morning to Megan. The next time we're going to say good afternoon to Ezra, and we're going to say good night to Nathan. Right? Name will store Megan, and time of day will store morning. The next time we call it, Ezra will be stored in name, and afternoon will be stored in time of day. Okay? And I think, let's just copy and paste this and put it into here. And it might make more sense to you if we run it. Okay, so again, there's this display greeting function that we've defined. Oh, the indenting's weird, that's okay though. Display greeting function, which we've defined with those parameters, right? Name and time of day. And here we're going to invoke the function, passing in Megan and morning as the arguments. Boom. So it goes into the function. Now notice here in this visualize JavaScript tutorial thing, it shows the display greeting function, and name and time of day are these local variables to this function. They only exist within the function here, name, time of day, and they've taken the values Megan and morning. So now when it runs hello name, it should say hello Megan, and the time of day, have a good morning. Okay, and then it returns undefined, and now it'll go to the next function call. This time the arguments are Ezra and afternoon, so name and time of day will store Ezra and afternoon. Right, there we go. Called the function display greeting. Name got Ezra. Boom. Time of day got afternoon. Awesome. So now it'll say, hello Ezra, have a good afternoon. And once again, Nathan and night, so name will get, right? These are the arguments that we pass in, and they get stored inside of these parameters right here. Hello Nathan, have a good night. And then the program's done. Okay. So that's really useful because sometimes you'll have a function that's, so you'll have some code that you repeat over and over again, and it's very similar, but just one thing or two things are a little bit different. Well, this allows us to reuse that code and just pass in those different values. And we will see that in some future examples. But for now, I think let's leave it at that. We know how to define a function. We now know how to provide some inputs into the function. Right? The arguments are the values that get passed in, and the function has those variables, parameters that store those inputs. Okay, hopefully that made sense. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.